$10 trillion opportunity nobody is talking about. Because if history repeats, this might be the biggest wealth transfer of our lifetime.
All right, let's get right into it. You see, there's a massive, and I mean massive, energy crisis brewing that almost nobody is talking about yet. And if you look at history, whenever a crisis this big comes along, the people who see it coming first, well, they're the ones who build incredible wealth. And what's wild is that the exact same pattern that created fortunes after World War II seems to be happening all over again right now.
So to see why, just look at this. It's pretty mind-blowing. A simple Google search, something we do all the time, uses about as much power as keeping a light bulb on for just 10 seconds. No big deal, right? But a single prompt to an AI like ChatGPT, that uses enough energy to power that same bulb for 2 full minutes. That's a huge, huge difference in power for something that feels basically the same to us. And we're not talking about a niche product here. ChatGPT alone has over 100 million active users. And think about it, you're not just asking one little question. You're having conversations, you're writing code, you're analyzing data. So when you multiply that insane energy use by that many people doing that much work, the demand for electricity just goes vertical. It's almost unbelievable. And that surge in demand is creating a really big problem. Here's the thing. America's power grid, it just wasn't built for this, not even close. We've got this futuristic, world-changing technology running on an electrical system from a totally different era. So what you've got is a head-on collision. You have this surging new demand on one side and this old, creaky, underbuilt grid on the other. And that gap, that is the crisis. But it's also where the opportunity is. What's so wild is just how predictable our energy needs used to be. I mean, for nearly 2 decades, think about that, 20 years. Even with all the new smartphones and streaming and population growth, our total electricity use just didn't change. It was totally flat. The system was balanced. And then AI showed up, and it completely shattered that flat line. So how ready is our grid for this kind of shock? Well, not great. The American Society of Civil Engineers, the folks who literally grade our country's infrastructure, they gave the U.S. energy grid a C-. A C-. I mean, that's barely passing, and it's for the system that powers literally our entire country. It's not exactly a confidence booster. And that grade starts to make a lot of sense when you look at the actual nuts and bolts. A lot of the really critical stuff, we're talking the giant transformers, the high-voltage power lines that carry electricity across the country, a lot of it was installed back in the 60s and 70s. They were built for a totally different world, and frankly, they are way past their expiration date. To really get your head around the sheer scale of what's needed, you have to look back in time. The last time America had to do an energy build-out this huge was right after World War II. And honestly, the pattern from back then gives us an almost perfect roadmap for what's about to happen today. After the war, the country just exploded, right? You had suburbs popping up, factories humming, new appliances in every home, and all of it needed power. So in just 20 years, electricity use grew by a staggering 400%. That meant we had to totally rebuild our energy industry. And the investors who backed that build-out, the ones who funded the utilities, the equipment makers, the fuel suppliers, they created generational wealth. And now, history is doing it again. That post-war boom is happening right now, only this time it's being driven by AI. Goldman Sachs projects that just the electricity needed for data centers is going to grow by 160% by 2030. That's nearly tripling the demand from just one industry. And our C- grid? No way it can handle that. So a massive build-out isn't just a possibility, it's an absolute necessity. Okay, so how do you even think about this as an investor? When most people hear AI, their brains go straight to chip companies or software. But the thing is, when a trend is that obvious, a lot of the easy money has already been made. The smarter play is to ask, what does AI need that nobody's really talking about yet? And the answer is energy. Which brings us to the classic picks and shovels strategy. The whole idea is really simple. Back in the California gold rush, very few of the prospectors who were digging for gold actually got rich. But you know who did? The guys who sold them the picks, the shovels, the denim jeans. They made a fortune, and they did it consistently. Why? Because it didn't matter if you found gold or not. Every single miner needed tools. Well, energy and infrastructure, those are the picks and shovels of the AI revolution. So if we break down this whole picks and shovels idea, it really comes down to 3 main areas. First, you've got broad exposure to the whole energy and utilities sector. Second, a more targeted bet on nuclear power and its fuel, uranium. And third, the most direct play of all, the companies that are actually building and upgrading the grid itself. So for that first bucket, broad exposure, a common way to invest is through ETFs, which are basically just baskets of different stocks. For instance, an ETF like XLE gives you a piece of the entire US energy sector: oil, gas, pipelines, the whole shebang. Then you have something like XLU, which is focused on utilities. We're talking about the companies that literally own the power lines and substations. They're right at the heart of this, because every single new watt of power has to run through their stuff. All right, now for that more specific nuclear idea. And we're going to get into exactly why nuclear is so important in just a second. But a nuclear plant can't run without uranium, and demand is already starting to outrun supply. So you have ETFs like NLR, which is a mix of uranium miners and the nuclear utility companies, or something like URA, which is more of a pure play on the global mining companies that are digging the uranium out of the ground. And finally, you've got the grid itself. This is the piece everyone overlooks. It's the purest infrastructure play. An ETF like Grid, for example, is all about the companies that make the transformers, that build the smart grid technology, and create the software to manage it all. These are the companies literally building the roads that all this new electricity is going to travel on. So, why are we talking so specifically about nuclear? It's because the biggest tech companies on the planet have already decided that it's the answer. They're not sitting around waiting for the grid to get fixed. Nope, they are plowing billions of their own dollars into securing their own power, and they are overwhelmingly choosing nuclear. And look, these are not just some small side projects. Microsoft was involved in reopening the 3 Mile Island nuclear plant just to power its data centers. Amazon is building its own. Google has a deal to buy power from a new generation of small modular reactors. Meta is out there right now trying to buy nuclear capacity. We're talking about multi-billion-dollar strategic decisions. And if you need any more proof about how serious this is, just listen to the CEO of NVIDIA, Jensen Huang. I mean, this guy is at the absolute dead center of the entire AI universe. And he said, flat out, that in just a few years, major tech companies will be running their own nuclear reactors. When he talks about the layers of AI, he puts energy as number one. First, that's not a mistake. So what is it about nuclear that makes it the chosen one? It all comes down to one word: reliability. AI data centers cannot ever go offline. Solar and wind are great, but they're intermittent. They only work when the sun is out or the wind is blowing. Nuclear is the only carbon-free power source that gives you constant, stable, around-the-clock power, 24/7, 365 days a year. It's exactly the kind of power AI needs. So let's just tie this all together. When you step back and look at the whole picture, you start to realize something. It really doesn't matter who wins the AI race. It doesn't matter if it's OpenAI or Google or some brand new startup. Trying to pick the winner is like trying to guess which single miner is going to find the biggest gold nugget. Because here's the bottom line. They all need huge amounts of reliable electricity. They all need the picks and the shovels. So the real question, the question that defined this entire opportunity, is just this: who's going to sell them the power?
Because in every gold rush, the miners take the risk. But the ones selling the tools build generational wealth. And trust me, you don't want to be late on this one.